Okay, everyone, hold on to your hats. We're diving straight into a situation that's, well, incredibly tense right now.
Definitely. High stakes.
We're talking about India and Pakistan. After a really devastating terror attack in Pahalgam on April 22nd, 26 lives lost, many more injured things have escalated fast.
Tragically fast. India's pointing the finger quite firmly at Pakistan-based groups.
And Pakistan is vehemently denying any involvement. Standard, perhaps, but the context is anything but.
Exactly. So what we're seeing is this rapid, almost dangerous spiral between two nuclear-armed neighbors.
So in this deep dive, we're going to unpack that sequence of events. We'll look at the layers, drawing straight from the news reports so you can really grasp what's going on and, frankly, why it matters so much.
Yeah, it's more than just the usual diplomatic fallout this time. The speed, the aggressiveness of the reaction and counter-reaction, that's what's particularly concerning.
We need to look beyond just the headlines, right?
Absolutely. Understand the dynamics driving this rapid descent into really heightened tension.
Okay, let's start at the flashpoint then.
Yeah.
Pahalgam, April 22nd, Jammu and Kashmir.
26 killed, many wounded. Horrific.
And almost immediately, India asserted links to terrorist groups operating from Pakistan.
And Pakistan denied it, as expected.
But this wasn't just some localized tragedy that ends there, was it? It clearly acted as a catalyst.
Oh, absolutely. Think of it like the first domino. The attack itself, terrible as it was, triggered this chain reaction.
A reaction creating a much bigger, much more precarious situation.
And one of the most immediate and I'd say alarming responses was some very, very direct rhetoric from Pakistan.
Right, that's where things took a really unsettling turn, didn't they? Pakistan's railway minister, Hanif Abbasi, he made this very public statement. Basically, I'm quoting here, "We have 130 nuclear weapons, all targeted at India. Ghauri and Ghaznavi missiles are ready."
Yeah. I mean, when a government official says that so explicitly.
It's hard not to see it as a major escalation in itself.
Precisely. This isn't, your typical diplomatic back and forth. This kind of blunt talk about nuclear capability, nuclear intent.
Especially from someone in the government.
It fundamentally changes the strategic calculation. It forces everyone regionally, internationally, to confront the very real possibility of nuclear conflict.
In a way that maybe hasn't felt quite this stark in recent years.
Exactly. It brings that whole MAD concept, mutually assured destruction, right back into sharp focus. Very tangible.
And adding another layer here, complicating things further, is China's role.
Ah, yes, China. Reports suggest Beijing has been, actively bolstering Pakistan's military.
Specifically, we're hearing about an expedited supply of PL-15 long-range air-to-air missiles.
And these aren't short-range things, range up to 300 kilometers. That's significant.
300 kilometers. So what does that actually mean in practical terms?
Well, look, integrating those advanced missiles into Pakistan's JF-17 fighters. It's not just adding more weapons. It's a significant upgrade to their aerial capability, both offensive and defensive.
So they could potentially engage Indian aircraft from much further away.
That's the implication. A 300-kilometer range impacts air superiority strategies, right? It means the Indian Air Force likely has to reassess its tactical approaches.
Okay, so against that backdrop, the attack, the nuclear rhetoric, the advanced missiles, how has India responded?
Decisively, and on multiple fronts.
We saw the suspension of the Indus Waters Treaty. That's a huge deal. That agreement's been around for ages.
Decades. And relatively stable, despite everything else. Suspending it signals a major shift, potentially using water as a strategic lever.
Then there was the revocation of all Pakistani visas, expelling diplomatic staff.
Standard diplomatic tools in a crisis, maybe, but still a powerful condemnation, cutting ties.
And significantly, India conducted test firings of its own indigenous missile systems.
Which serves as a very clear, unambiguous message about their own military readiness, a display of capability in this heightened environment.
Now, Pakistan hasn't just sat back, obviously. They've retaliated.
Indeed, they suspended the Simla Agreement.
The 1972 treaty, the one that basically set the rules for diplomatic relations after the 71 war.
That's the one. Suspending it essentially unravels a key diplomatic framework that's governed interactions for over half a century. It suggests a fundamental breakdown in established protocols.
And they've also closed their airspace to Indian flights.
Which isn't just a travel headache. It have logistical impacts, potentially military reconnaissance implications, and is a strong symbolic act too, cutting off connections.
So we've got the diplomatic moves, the military signaling, but what about the actual ground reality? We're hearing about skirmishes.
Yes, along the line of control, the Los NSE, Reports mention exchanges of small arms fire for, what, 4 nights running now?
4 consecutive nights. Thankfully, casualties seem minimal so far.
Minimal, yes, but the risk.
Yeah.
In such a charged atmosphere, these exchanges feel incredibly dangerous.
The potential for miscalculation, a small incident sparking something much bigger.
It feels alarmingly high. It just creates this climate of constant tension where anything could happen.
And the world is watching all this unfold naturally. What's the international reaction been like?
Well, the U.S. has called for a responsible solution, which is fairly standard diplomatic language.
Bit vague.
A bit vague, yes. China, interestingly, has reiterated support for Pakistan, but also urged restraint,
Walking a fine line there.
balancing its alliance with Pakistan against its own interest in regional stability. And the UN, predictably, has called for maximum restraint from both sides, trying to prevent a war.
Maximum restraint, because everyone understands the stakes involved with 2 nuclear powers.
Absolutely. The global understanding of the catastrophic potential here is clear.
Okay, and finally, we can't ignore the economic side. Are we seeing any immediate fallout?
We are, actually. Even at this early stage, the Indian rupee took a sharp dip.
Okay.
And there's increased volatility in government bonds. These are often early warning signs.
So analysts are worried.
Definitely. Concerns about the potential impact on foreign investment, on overall regional stability, if this standoff continues. Economic instability can just feed back into the political volatility.
Right. Makes sense.
That's another layer of pressure.
So summing up, we have 2 nuclear powers locked in this really dangerous dance of escalation after a horrific terror attack.
Firm positions on both sides. Contrasting stances, highlighting these deep-seated, unresolved issues.
And history, especially in this region, tells us that finding a path back to diplomacy isn't just, preferable.
It's an absolute necessity. The consequences otherwise could be, well, devastating.
Which really brings us to the core question, something for you listening to think about.
Given everything we've discussed, the history, the current high stakes, what are the most effective ways to de-escalate this in such a volatile situation?
And maybe even more pressing, what are the long-term implications for peace and security in the region if these cycles just keep repeating, keep escalating?
It's a hugely complex challenge, with consequences that reach far, far beyond just India and Pakistan. Affects the entire subcontinent, really.